Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World, where every word matters. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. EU leaders have gathered in Brussels, facing a critical moment for Europe's defense and economy. Now, with growing pressures from the war in Ukraine, the EU must find billions for arms while also grappling with a leadership void and slow economic growth. But how is Europe going to navigate these challenges? Now, to help us unpack this, I'm joined in studio by Piotr Kaczyński, EU expert at the Geremek Foundation. Piotr, welcome to the program. So glad to have you back.
Nice to be back.
Okay, Piotr, so with what I just said there, now Europe needs to find ways to fund hundreds of billions of euros in extra military spending to defend against any attack from Russia by the end of the decade. This is what Andrius Kubilius, the EU Commission's first defense chief, has said. Your comment on this triggering statement?
I would say that he's right. He's correct. But the real problem is that not everybody agrees. And not everybody agrees, especially those people who sit on the money. And they control, let's put it this way, the spending. Look at the biggest player in the question, Germany. The German defense spending was basically cut by the Constitutional Court this year, and that basically stops this big project of the Prime Minister or Chancellor of Germany, who basically promised to spend so much money by the end of the decade to basically start new program for the German army, and this problem is not yet done, and whoever is going to be new chancellor in February will have to basically ask this question again, and we'll see what kind of answers will we have.
You're saying to ask this question again, but now my question to you is, where is this money going to come from? I mean, really, we have Europe that's reportedly being afraid, saying things like everything needs to be done before or around 2030, because this is when they presume that Russia may or may not attack another NATO country. So where is this money going to come from?
Look, where the money is going to come from is a secondary question. First, how do we get this money? Because there is the money. I mean,
so how are they going to get it?
For example, Kubilius is talking about a new type of recovery fund. We have seen how this recovery fund works. It's an extra money. It's a combination of donations and also loans that the European Commission is taking from the markets. And this is probably what should be happening here, but whether we are going to have everybody on the same page, that's a question.
Piotr, do you think that this can be actually a realistic assumption to achieve this goal by 2030? And if not, what are the potential risks if the target is not met?
I mean, there's no answers right now, because you also were talking about leadership. There's no leadership in Paris, there's no leadership in Berlin for now. So we cannot say yes or no when we do not know what kind of ideas are coming from Paris and Berlin. We know what kind of ideas are coming from, for example, from Warsaw, but if you look for like Warsaw and Lisbon and Madrid and Rome, they are on the same page when it coming to the security questions. So the real problem is with Paris and Berlin. If we have those two countries on the same page with Poland, with the Baltic countries, with Scandinavian countries, Greece as well, then this is not going to be such a big question anymore. So here, I mean, this is why the February elections are so important, because if the German chancellor is going to say yes, like Angela Merkel did with the recovery fund a couple years ago, then this will be a biggest change of the, let's say, wind for this question.
Piotr, what is it going to take for each? I mean, you're saying that they have, all these differences, but what is it going to take for them to actually find some kind of solution together to put their, defense priorities and budget constraints in order to maintain this cohesion on defense spending?
threats. Threats are working actually quite...
Russian threats?
Yes, Russian threats, but also Trump threats. Trump is threatening a survivor of NATO. We don't know what's going to happen with NATO in 2025. So, on the look, Ukraine wants to be in NATO, but United States, maybe they will leave NATO. Then Trump is a question mark, right? Trump came to Paris. Macron is trying to get some kind of relationship with the next president of the United States. Not only him, but also NATO Secretary General, former Dutch Prime Minister, very influential person. So there is some kind of movement for the United States, but there is a threat from Washington. There's a threat from East and West. There's also a threat from the Far East, and EU maybe will be more cohesions, or the cohesion of the EU inside cohesion will be much better because of those threats, or not. We have seen what Brexit did to the European Union. Cohesion of the European Union was better after Brexit vote.
I was going to get into that right now. Now, yesterday, as part of a series of exchanges with international partners on global economic development, so Eurogroup held a discussion with Rachel Reeves, the UK's Chancellor of Exchequer. What would you say were the main outcomes of this meeting? I mean, you also mentioned Brexit and all that.
Good question for the UK as well, because UK is so strangled. UK is in this position where they were trying to be this global partner for everybody. And with nationalistic elections in the United States, nationalistic questions in China and Russia, United Kingdom right now is looking for friends. And they are not knocking to the EU doors to came back.
But
maybe yet, but this is a big question for them as well.
But aren't they reportedly discussing defense challenges?
Coordination. That's what they are discussing, apparently. Coordination about what to do with Ukraine questions without United States contributing.
So what are they going to do? What are some of the...
They are going to contribute the same issues. So, for example, if there is a European Union, let's say, decision about what to do with financial assistance to Ukraine, military assistance to Ukraine, without United States, this is what UK will contribute as well. Of course, United Kingdom is one of the biggest country in NATO outside of the European Union, together with Turkey. So those questions are here on the page, that United Kingdom and European Union together will be coordinating their support for Ukraine if United States is basically taking a back step.
And do you see that unfolding? How do you see that unfolding? I mean, I know it's hard to tell because Trump hasn't assumed office yet.
Those are moving parts. Those are moving parts. If at the same time there is real truce possibility between Ukraine and Russia, I'm not going to advocate for or against this, because this should be Ukrainian decision to do this or not. And but if it is unfolding, then it's a big issue here. It may be buying some time for us, 2030. Yes. And then the threat of Putin is still there. The threat from Trump, not as important if we have some kind of truce in the East, but then economic questions and Green Deal issues, transition issues are back on the page as well, because our competitiveness is super important for everything.
I mean, what long-term reforms are necessary to ensure, how you just said, Europe's economic competitiveness and stability moving forward? That's
exactly the questions that the people in the European Council or the Council of the EU are asking right now. And they probably have the answers, but then cannot agree on the ways to get there. The answers were provided by Mario Draghi report, by Enrico Letta report on the single market, on the European economy a couple of months ago. But then then, for example, Draghi is calling off this massive investment boost that is necessary. And then where is it coming from if, again, we are not doubling or tripling the EU budget? EU budget is tiny. It's only 2% of the EU GDP compared to national budgets, which are 40 to 60% by one member state.
Thank you so much, Piotr Kaczyński, EU expert at the Geremek Foundation, for your inputs here this morning on World Talks, for breaking it down all for us. And that completes this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.